We're talking about that what if our experiences that we are using to navigate life, to live happily and healthily with those that we care about, and to do things that are meaningful, and to find honor, and to find peace, and, an existential contentment, life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, like meaningful, deep stuff. We're using these maps that have come down through bumbling buffoons of CIA agents trying to, get less crime or more nefarious causes. Or Hollywood guys who are just trying to use whatever tricks in the book they can get to sell box office tickets or advertisements. How many get Coca-Cola to sponsor them, and then Brad Pitt said, Coca-Cola, happiness, and then goes back to Ocean 50. Like, what if this is where we're getting our knowledge about the world? When I want to live in a world that is sacred and worthy of reverence and respect, like a world that has intrinsic value, and I already know that this is not the world I see. That baby in the other room over there, my little girl, sees the world as full of awe and wonder. Everything. And I don't even think she can see more than a foot in front of her face right now. She's only 2 weeks old. Why don't I see everything within 2 feet in front of my face right now as full of wonder and awe and magic? You know what I mean? Why do we have to go out and get intoxicated because our world is lacking in any natural sense of life being intoxicated? You know what I mean? Why is life not a gift? It's a granted. Like, why is every breath, every heartbeat, every step that we take, that the ground is there under our feet, not a gift? And rich like people try and fill that hole in their chest with all kind of nonsense and things, material things, and power and wealth and all the things that people chase because they feel empty inside, and they just consume and consume and consume more and more and more, but it never satisfies with any quantity of anything. Like, where is that? And when we look at the maps that people have been given, right? They look at Hollywood. What are we worshiping? We're worshiping narcissistic, buttholes, dude. They're ridiculous. And we're looking at people who are like think about that movie where you take that pill and you become the smartest person in the world, you use 100% of your brain power. What does he do? He becomes a corrupt ass politician. Is that what you do? If you were the smartest person in the world, you'd figure out how to be a fucking doofus in politics? That's what you would do? Are you kidding me? Like, think about the Avatar movie, right? Yeah. Avatar is this concept in Indian culture where this consciousness descends down to earth with the intention of helping people and is wise about the ways of the world and people and teaches everybody to live in peace and then moves on unattached. In that movie, it's this Jake Sully guy who's the only one who's got the freaking DNA for the Avatar, so he has to go in military orders, and he hates his life, he hates himself, he's in a wheelchair, and he's like, I don't like myself, and then he's like, I'm just gonna go and get an Avatar body, so he leaves Earth and goes somewhere else, right? And then he's like a baby, he's stupid, and they have to teach him, because he's not wise about the ways of the world, and then he leads everybody into war and violence, it all erupts, and they blow shit up and kill each other, then he gets attached and he stays, and he just leaves his worthless little human body for this Avatar on another planet, right? Screw you guys, go back to your planet. You know what I'm saying? The exact opposite. Like, what if that's our map? That's our map for embodying in this planet, right? That's what we're given. Like, your experience of being here on Earth, you came here, wherever you were before was shit. Okay, you were crippled, and you know what I mean? It's ridiculous. The maps we're given suck. They straight up suck. You go to school to make a grades, to get a degree, to get a job, to make the money, to then afford to buy the time to do the things that make life worth living to you. Bullshit. Absolute bullshit. Then you spend your whole life just chasing some ridiculous dream in the future, and the whole time you miss the entire process of life. You miss the richness that's sitting between the fabric of this moment and between the lines of you and me and this table right here. That this moment is happening is a freaking miracle. And if I'm sitting here worrying about the future, when I'm going to make it and retire and move to the Bahamas and live in a little hut fishing, I could have freaking been doing that right now. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I don't know.
So let's talk about this, though. The context of a story, right? Because a film is telling a story. So I think there are surface level details, and then there's the deeper aspects. So, just like when somebody's writing a script, right, they're going to follow a plot outline that's going to have elements of, like a context, then there's a problem, and then there's a climax, and then there's a resolution, right? But then the surface details, that's like filling in the character, traits and creating, they're going to talk like this, and they're going to dress like this, and they're going to walk like this, right? But ultimately, I think, in one sense, film today is kind of like our modern mythologies. And, I think that's easy to see with, especially in sci-fi and fantasy, when you have films like The Matrix and Star Wars. And, we know actually that Star Wars and George Lucas based, some of those ideas around the work of Joseph Campbell and the hero's journey. And he kind of, wrote the story to tell that ancient mythology in a modern context, or actually in a futuristic context, that would speak to, our generation, who, might not pick up the Upanishads or other ancient texts and read about, Odysseus or whoever else, in these old fables. So I don't know. It's interesting because, on the one hand, I think there's a value. Well, again, it's neutral. Let's say it's neutral because it depends on the intention of who's writing the story. But then again, it's also like, are we just going to sit back like sponges and soak up whatever anyone's trying to push on us, or do we get to participate and decide whether or not we identify or relate to a certain story? But I think that this. So in one sense, there's a value, whether it's positive or negative, in the larger elements of a plot line that kind of represents like a modern mythology or mythological fable. But then even as you're watching that and taking in those elements, we're also watching we're subconsciously, I think we are absorbing the finer details of the way they walk, the way they talk, the way they act. And those are the things that kind of seep into our culture, whether we like it or not, because people, they'll get an emotional response to a film, maybe it's uplifting, whatever, and then, makes them feel good. They're sitting in their theaters, they're having this imagined experience of something that's not happening in 3D reality, but their brains are processing, the images that are before you, and it's causing the same kind of emotional reactions and catharsis. And so then you get these heightened stimulus, heightened senses, and then at the same time you're getting the subliminal, picking up on the cues, what are the way they look at each other, their attitudes, this, that, and the other thing, kind of seep in, and it's either cool or it's uncool or whatever, and kind of like that all trickles in and seeps into our culture, and then how we view others, how we interact, kind of like you're saying with with your experience with in the foreign language classroom,
So yeah, you're right. Like, no matter what, even if you're looking at a movie screen, you're still watching a human being acting, albeit, but still watching a human being. So I think that you don't get away from the truth completely. I think that even if there was a total subliminal message program going on in Hollywood, and Disney and all that stuff, you're still getting some element of the truth. Like when you're looking at Mickey Mouse's red pants. It is red. Like, you know, you're getting some truth. I agree. And also, like, I don't think we can throw out the whole element of human life of myth making. I think that myth making is super powerful. I wonder, though, you know, maybe we can't do anything about it. Maybe these myths are out there. We just have to use a healthy interpretation of it, like the savior myth.
Right. Actually, I was keying into something that you brought up earlier, and maybe I don't know if I was interpreting it how you meant it, but what did you say? You said you were asking me whether or not, man, I said something and you responded. We're gonna have to rewind the tape. Let's pause. Let me rewind.
Play this shit back.
And then I'll come
Turn
back.
off
Get
the
back
light
to you in
bulb.
a second. Whether or not reality ever was not reality. Like,
Do you think that there's a certain element of reality that is more real
that's
than
it.
another
Thank
one?
you. Exactly. So that's the point I want to come to, is that even if through our mediated, filtered experience of mass media and television or whatever other medium that we're exposed to, and we're taking in, you know, some story or image, I mean, that's still happening within our reality. So it's not really any less real in the sense that it's part of our experience and our reality. It's like, maybe it goes back to the cave allegory. I don't know. Maybe that's just what it is.
That's interesting. So let's say that I'm like, so everything I'm saying, Michael, is reality. The vibrations are reality. The sound is reality. The way that I'm moving my mouth and vocal cords in order to say what I'm saying, Michael, is true. It's reality. Don't worry about the words I say. Just worry about that the words are truly words. They are reality. Kill yourself. Now, I throw that in there, right?
Right. Well, I think
this is something I'm seriously curious about. That's why I'm throwing it out. Like,
sure.
Like, how do we deal with this other aspect of?
I'll tell you what. This is what I think. It's like the cave exists, but it exists within the larger context of outside the cave. And so you can, if you only...
Cave's real. I like that.
The cave's real, but if
cave's
it's
real.
all you know, if you only live in the cave, then that's all you know. But once you step out of the cave, you still can know the cave.
Right.
And you can also know outside the cave. It's like, do you
there
know
really
that,
are shadows.
You know the story Flatland? You ever heard of that?
Yeah, I think so. Flatlanders.
Yes, this guy wrote a story called Flatland, and the basic premise is it's a world of two-dimensional objects. So you have a square and triangle. You know, these are different characters.
Okay.
And it's like one of the characters has a glimpse of the 3D world somehow. Just in a flash, he gets it. I don't know. It's I read the book a long time ago, but the premise is, you know, how does a square and a circle, right, confined within their two-dimensional plane, how do they get a glimpse or know or not know about this larger reality that's actually the 3D world? So let's say a cube passes through the two-dimensional plane that is their reality. As it's passing through, all they really see is the 2D. They can't, you know, they can only experience the two-dimensional aspect of it, even though it's a 3D object passing through their plane. They ever only see the 2D aspect of it, even though there's this larger reality. And so I think in some ways it's kind of an analogy, and I think it was written as an analogy of, you know, what is our experience in this existence incarnated in this 3D world where we're trying, or we're, it's are we trying to grasp by our pursuit and our search for the divine and kind of these higher spiritual aspects? Is that us trying to get a glimpse of a larger dimension that's outside of our reality, like where could this 3D reality be a cave inside of another wider reality that we're just not because we're limited through our senses that we're not aware of?
That's
it doesn't mean this world's not real,
right? It's very real, but it's also like maybe just one part of the whole,
right?
Not the whole. That's really interesting to think about. It makes me feel like it's all going to be okay, Michael. It's all going to be okay. The power of myths, I think, is something really important. When I started writing The Return of Gnosis, which was originally the map and the territory. Actually, it was from the map back to the territory. I was trying to get rid of all maps, right? I was trying to demonize map making, which turned into demonizing myth making, which I reached a point in my research and personal development in writing this where I was kind of writing my own personal myth. And here was the problem, because I'm demonizing maps and myths because they're not real. They are, you know what I mean? They're an interpretation of reality. They're secondhand. Myths are not the real thing. They're not the expression of the myth. And at the same time, I'm writing a myth. So it was kind of a contradiction. And I really had to wrestle with that for a while. Because even no myth is a myth. Kind of like if you say that, I don't have a religion. I believe there's no God. That's your belief system right there. You have a belief system that there's no God, which is the same in this sense with someone who has a belief system where there is a God, but you both believe. You both have a system of belief that you adhere to. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Which is static. I think that these myths, like let's say Hollywood is just modern myth making, and sometimes not so modern. Sometimes they follow the same patterns of some of the old myths. I think it's good. It's like a living word, It's a new interpretation, a living mythology is great, is fantastic. I think what's going to be important is how we approach these myths and myth making in general. You know what I mean? Because different myths can have different powers, different effects on people at different times.
Well, what's that quote at you like about the snare, the rabbit in the snare? I mean, maybe that's kind of the function of myth. It's the snare, but once you've got the rabbit,
you don't need the myth.
Right. So
check it out. Let's take the Christian myth. Christians don't like me calling it a myth, but let's just take it in the context of a myth of Jesus Christ, the Savior, right? Or any other religion, really. The Savior roles. Batman plays the role of the savior of Gotham, sacrifices himself, takes a bomb way out in the ocean, blows himself up for the sins of Gotham, basically. They were so bad that this behemoth guy was just going to destroy Gotham and cleanse of all the corruption, right? And then Batman comes and takes the bomb out in the ocean and blows himself up to save Gotham because of their own sins. That's a very similar theme that you get to the Christian myth of only through Jesus Christ can you find redemption. Redemption from what? From original sin. Original sin. What's that? It's that you disobeyed God and ate of the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And your forefathers and their forefathers and their forefathers have forever have this tendency to do what they should not. It's kind of this doctrine of human evilness, so to speak. Government Same myth, right? People are too lazy, stupid, and evil to get along and take care of themselves without being made or told to do so by the political authorities of the day. Same thing, right? It's the same myth. It's the same myth. So, like, do we need that myth? Is that a good myth? Or is there a good way of approaching that myth? Like, what does that tell us about humankind that we're making this myth?
All right. One thought that just came to me is that this act of myth making, not only making, but handing down myths, it's almost like an intergenerational game of telephone.
Oh, that's an interesting way of looking at it.
It's like, okay, this myth, I don't even know, we have certain myths that have been handed down to us in the form of stories and fables. But how do we know, where did they come from? Where did the people who made those myths and wrote those fables, how did they come up with them? What were they based on? Were they, either they were handed down from something further back, just like we were talking about, Hollywood writes a story today that's, based on it's like this, rewriting the same script that's just from an older classic, or they had a direct experience of something that gave them the insight to make the myth, but that then now it's, handed down over thousands of years. Our culture has evolved, changed. We're still trying to, we've got the wafers. It was like the rabbit in the snare thing. If you had the real experience, if you had it, would you need the wafer?
Let me ask you this. If you had the direct revelation, would you need the mushroom? Mushrooms are for visions. If you got the visions, maybe you can get rid of the mushrooms. Go to what it's all about. What's the vision about? What's the visionary experience about? Some kind of perception of an aspect of reality that we can't directly cognize through our day-to-day oblique Monday morning state of consciousness. We need an altered state, a different way of perceiving it. So let me ask you this. If a different way of perceiving things, a complementary way of perceiving things, has been so special to all the indigenous cultures around the world, the wisdom traditions, who live a fairly healthy relationship to nature and the world, kind of reverent, respectful, and every rock and stick is sacred, then maybe a complementary way of perceiving things is necessary. So what if we take myths and take a complementary way of looking at it? Let's say that the myth was not that you're the mass, he's the savior, you need to be saved from yourself. But rather the myth is for you to realize that you're the savior, that this is a personal myth, right? Interpretation can be either way. So maybe we are just interpreting it that way. Just think about it. Jesus is the man who followed no man, right? He was a total libertarian. He was a total anarchist in the stick and the proverbial spokes of the religious establishment of the day, which is Judaism. They weren't Christian. And they killed him, They crucified his ass. That's how the myth goes, at least. Mm-hmm. So if you take that myth, right, which, if you think about it, the whole concept, at least, of being a Christian, if anything, should be to strive to be more like Christ. If Christ is the man who followed no man, what are we doing following a man? You know what I mean? What are we doing? He had direct revelation in the story, direct access in the story. You know what I'm saying? And he had a relationship to himself and to the world, which was, I'm man, but I'm also divine, right? It was this paradoxical relationship. You know what I mean? Where, you're not all-knowing, you're not all-powerful, but at the same time you are. It was like the father-child relationship. Real natural metaphor, father-child. It's like saying a tree is known by its fruit, using a natural metaphor. But what if our interpretation of it shows where we're at. You know what I mean? Like, let's say a child, somebody tells a child, you need a mom and you need a dad, always. And they think, oh man, well, since I can't be both my own mother and father, I guess I need you. I'm always going to need you. You know what I mean? What if the parent was saying, better learn to be your own mom and dad soon? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like internalize it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Save yourself.
Well, I think ideally, and I'm not a parent, but I would say one wants to raise a child who's going to be able to, fly on their own one day. And you don't want your kid being 40 years old, living in your basement, still,
Daddy is fire hot. You're 30, son.
Right.
Yeah. So let's bring in another element of science, in fact, which is this spontaneous remission phenomenon that's happening. This so-called mind over matter paradox that's happening, where people are infected by something outside of them. They have a virus, they have a cancer, in the traditional understanding of it. And they get a placebo or something like that, or they get laying of hands and they get healed. And boom, they're actually healed, even though it was just salt water, even though it was just their expectation or their belief or something. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So this is an interesting thing when we're talking about our maps about the world, because you write this story that says you can't do stuff like that. If you're sick, you can't just go, why would you just never get sick? You know what I mean? It's almost a fact of life, though, that eventually everybody gets sick, old, and dies. It's a fact of life. You know what I mean? It's going to happen to you. It's going to happen to me sooner or later. And yet people do get sick. So where is this spontaneous remission thing coming in? And would it even happen without the placebo? But then again, there's these people who get healed from like going to little girls who do a laying of hands, like special people in Salvador and stuff. I mean, this is real stuff. Like millions of people getting healed is a big deal. That's not like a couple crazies, who are probably still have a cold, but they believe they're sick, or maybe they were hypochondriacs, or maybe they made it up. Like millions of people, come on. You know what I mean? Maybe it's not millions, but a lot of people. You know what I mean? That's real stuff. And then you've got, in the myth, all the miracles are associated with healing. All associated with healing. Or raising the dead, or walking on water. Maybe not all of them, some of them. So, our biology is different than the map that we've been given growing up. I studied pre-med first year in college. And I remember day one of genetics class, them saying, all right, we're going to start out with the DNA sequencing. Now, here it goes. DNA to RNA to protein. There's little arrows in between them, right? Everything comes from your DNA, makes the replica DNA, and that makes the protein expression, and that makes up you. You are a product of your genes, right? So I raised my hand, and I'm like, oh, well, where's the DNA come from? And it was kind of like what caused the Big Bang kind of question. I just like the dialogue, really. But he goes, well, we don't know. And it was totally frank and honest answer, but I was like, kind of taken aback. I'm like, I'm looking 10 years down the line of medical school, okay? Like 10 years of higher education. And you don't know? And this is the foundation of genetics? He's like, yeah, we don't know. Yeah, but it's best we got.
We're working on it.
We're working on that. it's the best we got. Watson and Crick, Theory of Genetics. It's been taught for 30 years. It's the central dogma, of genetics. What's central dogma mean?
Who, incidentally, as I've read before, were under the influence of psychedelics when they had the light bulb moment of the double helix.
Right. I've heard that too. Right. Interesting. So Watson and Crick, Theory of Genetics, the primacy of genetics, basically, DNA to RNA to protein. That's what I'm learning. Central dogma. What's that? Oh, it just means it's been taught for 30 years and, it's the accepted belief. I'm like, okay. There's been 130 on this textbook because the old one, it's already got bad information in it. And all this information is still going to be good and central dogma by the time I get 10 years down higher educational path. I'm like, I think I'm going to go into philosophy, psychology. But in that book was a little paragraph on something called epigenetic process. And it's where they lumped all the stuff that you can't explain through the traditional central dogma theory of genetics, which is just you got your genes, that's what you got. And that is the process of which apparently our perception of our reality affects our genetic expression or our phenotypic expression. So these calluses on my hand from working out, that's a genetic change in the cells, telling those cells to reproduce, to be more tough, and to reproduce faster and produce more cells.
It's like switches, right? And they get turned on or off.
Exactly.
Depending on,
the environment.
Yeah, it's adaptation, yeah.
The interpretation of the environment, or the perception of the environment. So this is, of course, a direct perception of the environment by the cells, right? They're directly perceiving the environment to be hazardous and harmful, and they respond. But what about our perception of our environment? Not just a cell, but us, the big whopper, right? Does that perception affect our genetic expression, or things like our immune response? I mean, so in epigenetics and all the science that exists on that now, which was much more than that tiny little paragraph when I looked into it, says yes. Hell yes. Hell absolutely yes. So the cell has these receptor sites where it receives information, okay, like it receives vitamins and nutrients and minerals and all that stuff, but it also receives information. So when you perceive your environment, you're making all kinds of stuff. You're making emotional peptides that flood your body. If you feel afraid or stressed, or if you feel totally comfortable, or if you're like in bliss, you know what I mean? Those are emotional peptides hitting every cell in your body. Boom, boom, boom. Ticking up in the receptor sites. And then your cells are responding to these emotional peptides and so on in the same way that they would through the preceptor proteins perceiving their immediate environment as hazardous and harmful or safe and healthy for growth and development. Like the same way. So our perception of our environment is affecting things like our genetic expression. That's big. Our immune expression. I mean, this is big stuff. So who's to say?
I'll do you one better.
Tell me.
Not only our perception of our environment, but I would say our interpretation of our perceptions. Because
that's where I'm going with this shit, Michael. Boom! Woo! That's what I'm talking about. So what if our interpretation of these myths has been what's holding us back? Is what's toxic, what keeps us. You know what I mean? Like this feeling, there's this underlying feeling that something is missing, that something keeps us. You know what I mean? And at the same time that everything's perfect and great. You know what I mean? But I know that at the same time, we don't experience it like that. It is, but we don't experience it like that. Life's a gift. Every breath's a gift. Every heartbeat's a gift. Every time we wake up, we don't have to. Every time we take a step, the ground is under our feet, and it should make us rich. Why don't we experience it? And I think it's our interpretation, Michael.
I also think it begins with asking the question, as you just did. I think you eventually come to a point where you ask the question, why why aren't I experiencing the full richness and full flavor of life? Why is it that I think I'm missing something? Why is it that I feel that I'm missing something? Am I missing something? What is it? When we start to question these things, I think eventually we might come to a place where we not only question the circumstances, but we can begin to question our interpretation as well of the circumstances when we start asking that question.
Have you heard of myths like the Holy Grail and the Philosopher's Stone and things like this?
Yeah.
Alchemy, right? Philosopher's Stone turns lead to gold. Have you ever said the expression, man, that shit was gold? Golden.
Solid gold, baby.
When you say that, do you only use that expression when you're actually talking about the element of gold?
Well, no, because gold, it's come to symbolize anything of high value.
Yeah. It's golden, you know? And then, well, now we have platinum, but it's the same concept. So I think, what if the Philosopher's Stone is talking about the same thing that the Holy Grail is talking about? What if we're talking about basically the key, to use another metaphor, which is our interpretation of reality? What if we can literally interpret our reality? So let me ask you this. If you had the power to interpret your reality anyway, why wouldn't you just live forever? But then again, you wouldn't want to live forever. You know what I'm saying? You wouldn't want to live forever. I bet you, if you had the power to interpret your reality like that, to the extent that we're talking about, you got the Philosopher's Stone, the ideal capacity to interpret your reality. Does that change reality? You know what I mean? Like the healer, for example. Do they actually get healed because they interpret these sequence of events to be conclusively a certain way? You know what I mean? Like, so what about other events? Think about the schizophrenic, right? Are they interpreting their reality to where there's voices and shit in the walls and other people? Like, you know, I got Cousin It sitting at the end of the table. You know, you can't see him, but he's there. You know, he's been around, and shh, quiet. I'm interacting with him. Am I interpreting my reality? You know what I mean? Like we're talking about? Or is something else in play? Am I projecting on the reality? Who's to say that what we think is interpreting reality is really projecting on reality? You know what I mean? And what is reality? And is there even a difference at that point from what you think and what you're observing? You know what I mean? Like, what if it's like a lucid dream then? Where you're creating the reality and at the same time discovering the reality. You're finding it out. Have you ever done that? I had a dream where I woke up once in a dream and I was like, oh, dreaming. And I look around and I'm really exploring this dream landscape, and it's like freaking pixelated. It's pixelated, dude. I'm looking at it and it's like being created as I'm looking, and then it's just more stuff creating. But in my peripheral vision, I can see it's all pixelated and stuff. It was really weird. Really weird dream. And I had another lucid dream once where I'm like, man, I'm alive. I almost died like 100 times. And it was really unrealistic. Like, you get shot, and then you wouldn't die, but it would just hurt, and the person wouldn't leave. They just keep shooting you, and it would just keep hurting until you're like, all right, I'm not dead. I fell down like I was dead, but I'm not. I'm just going to run away because this hurts. And then eventually you're like, I'm alive. I must be dreaming, you know? And then you're like, holy shit, I'm dreaming, you know? And I went around this mall near where I grew up in my childhood, and I was like hugging people and telling them, oh my God, I'm alive. And this light came shining out from my forehead. It was like a prism, this multicolored light. And the whole room in the entrance of this mall became like really lucid and vivid and clear. It was like way clearer than my sight is in real life. And I have pretty good vision. I'll never forget this dream. So I was like, whoa. And I went up to somebody, right? I think he was this Indian guy. Just your token, like, dream background context sit-in actor or something, right? And I grabbed this random guy by the shirt, right? Like, I grabbed him by the shirt. I'm kind of holding him up, and I'm looking at him really intently, and I'm like, so what is it like for you to be a character in my dream? And he looks at me and he goes, well, I don't know. It's kind of like anything else. And I'm like, whoa, hold on a second, buddy. I did not predict you saying that. I thought I was the dreamer here. And I had all this doubt in my head. And I was like, well, let's just forget about all that and go outside and try and fly before this is all over. So I go outside and try and fly, but I'm like in total doubt. So I try and fly over the grass first in case I fall. And I remember jumping up in the air and then just like kind of coming down long on my head. And then it hurt. And then I was like, oh, this is real, isn't it? This is real life. And I went right back into the dream, and I'm being chased by guys with guns, and it's really weird. But my point is, these lucid dreams have changed my idea about it. Maybe, like, we're not secretly the creator and the, like maybe there's an element of the creation of reality of which is beyond the scope, like is totally transcendent of human reality, and at the same time immanent completely through it. But this isn't it. Like, we can't grasp it all. Just like, I mean, I guess the concept of the infinite in general, we can't grasp. Like, we say the word infinite, but that doesn't mean we get infinity. Like, we get the word, which means, like, you know, kind of the reference point at the other end of finite, but it's just kind of this arrow pointing off in the direction of the not fully knowable. I mean, you can keep counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and you'll get the point, but you don't get to infinity because it'll never end. You know what I mean?
I do.
I don't know.
I had an experience of infinity once.
Tell me.
In a dream.
I'm curious.
In a dream, I was...
I want to hear it. Not because I doubt you, because this is intriguing.
Well, I was a child. I was, I don't remember quite how old I was. I was pretty young, but I remember I had an incredible fever. It's like one of those, you know...
Sick dreams are crazy, huh?
Yeah, like 103 degrees or 104 degrees, something bordering on, you know...
Insanity.
Yeah. And I remember that I went to sleep in my parents' bed, and I don't know, I had a dream that what I experienced in the dream, it was almost like I was up against a wall that extended infinitely in all directions. It was just a feeling, like a presence of something that had no
bounds.
Yeah. But I was touching it. I was in contact with it.
Hmm.
And it just, I don't know, that's the best image that I can give to it was that I was faced with a wall that went forever in all directions. It was, it was kind of ineffable, to be honest.
Ineffable. Cool.
There we go, trying to F the ineffable again.
You're effing it up. But I like it. I like bordering the divine here. I think we're getting somewhere. So this is interesting to me, these topics. Probably will be interesting to the right kind of listener, to the kind of listeners we want to attract. Not for educational purposes, entertainment purposes. Because we're not sitting here citing our references all the way back to Charlemagne, and our forefathers and their forefathers said it from their forefathers who got it from Abraham, who got it from God. Spitballing here. I mean, we're not going off the cuff. This is totally well planned out, of course, with the element of spontaneity heavily included. But this is interesting stuff to me. This is not interesting because I want to transcend human reality, but this is interesting because I enjoy the mystery. The mystery is enriching to my everyday life. Okay, like, I'll give you an example. I might have already told you this. I taught at a school in Sweden. Was it here? Okay, so back in college, I was here masquerading around as a substitute teacher. And I would give these workshops. I'd be like, all right, guys, you want to do a cool workshop? Or do you want to do the busy work that your teachers have given you for today? And they're like, workshop! So I would just make up all these crazy workshops and thought experiments and stuff and social experiments and just try them out on these captive audience test subjects, right? But one time, that we were doing the busy work and something special occurred. We're doing all this busy work and they're like, oh, Mr. Teacher, we've already done that. We've already gone over it. This has already been covered. We don't need to go over it. And I thought about it, right? And what we were teaching, the way that we were teaching was indeed covering, because we were giving kids information and ideas about the world and reality and what's true, as professors, to profess the truth, right? That were ideas about it, and they're taking the ideas and they don't want to look at it anymore. They want the idea. We got the idea. We got it. Yeah, trees are green. I'm never going to look at a tree again. I got it. And it's covering up parts of their experience with dead knowledge about it, static dead knowledge about it. And this in fact was not knowledge. This was ignorance. They're ignoring whole aspects of their life and experience because they think that they already know it and there's nothing more to learn about it. When the truth nothing could be farther from the truth. Life and experience and reality and even yourself is dynamic. It's alive. It's fluctuating. It's changing. Okay. And the maps that I'm giving these kids are the opposite of that. You know what I mean? So if they're going to just put on their blinders, unfold this giant life map and think they can just walk around uncharted territory, where, the whole landscape is moving and changing. They're going to go right off a cliff or go in circles. It's ridiculous. So, where I'm going with this is, I think that when you experience the mystery of anything, like anything, something that's personally connected to you, that you are interested in, the mystery is if it's like a calling, if it's personal to you, it draws your undivided attention. Right? Naturally, no Adderall, no nicotine, no caffeine needed. your 100% undivided attention is drawn here. And you don't have to do it. You don't have to force it. You don't have to get the babies out and lock the doors and turn off the TV and put on your study music and take your pills and go in the zone, right? And really just sit there and hammer it out. There's no hammering happening. I mean, it's just blossoming. It's fruitating right now. Boom, 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 boom. And you're not doing anything. Like, it's like Mozart when he write his music. He'd describe it as if his hand was just writing it itself, kind of like autodidactic or what is it when it's writing? Not autodidactic, that's when you're speaking. Autonoetic, autopoetic,
Got me.
Autozone.
Writing, manuscripting.
Autoscripting? Autoscripting, I'll take it. I'll take autoscripting for 200. But the mystery itself, when you have a mystery of something, it draws you to look at it. And if you're looking at something fully, and I mean looking in a metaphoric way, like not just with your eyes, you're hearing, you're smelling, you're tasting it, not just with your senses. You have a sense of balance in this moment. You have all of your memories. You have all your emotions. You have your internal emotional state, everything. I mean, there's an internal sensing too. You have a feeling emotionally. And then you have your mood. You have, your psychological state that you're in and your brainwave state and all this stuff. But when I say like when you really look at something fully,
with an intensity.
Well, with an intensity, with a presence, right? I think then there's something that emerges that otherwise you can't recognize. I mean, you can see your ideas about it, which are just little glimpses of it, really. They're just tiny little itsy bitsy pieces of the whole. But when you really, really are 100% present, and that means doing something that you're interested in, that you're passionate about, that's personal and meaningful to you, right? Fuck what the schools say, the government says, the church says. I mean, they can talk about stuff, but it ain't meaningful to you. You're just going to be half present, glazed over, right? Now, when that happens, there's a magic. Because a mystery by definition cannot be known. And yet at the same sense, it draws you to look at something. And that's the only way you can know it. To fully be present for it. So to fully be present for something, that, my friend, is knowing it. Not holding an idea about it and saying, I don't ever want to look at a tree again because I already know it's green. That's not knowledge. Knowledge is really engaging the mystery and participating in the mystery. And that, my friend, that's the value of going into what we're talking about and talking about the mysteries and talking about the unknown and talking about the infinite. You know what I mean? It's enriching, it's enhancing. It calls you to be present, fully present, to learn in ways that people can't dream of because we spend our lives half here, half doing what we're doing and half doing something else, half where we are and half wishing we were somewhere else or off somewhere else in our minds. We're half alive. We're alive, but we're not living. We don't have that sense of aliveness in our eyes.
Because we're divided. I think there's an element, I really feel very deeply what you're transmitting right now. And I think we discussed this earlier. Talked about the aspects of perception and then our interpretation of our perception. And what is it that divides us? I feel like part of this has to do with a sort of fragmentation. I bring a machine analogy into it again, but I think of it in terms of computer. Fragment a hard disk, right? When you defragment, you're kind of like repartitioning the hard drive and it's eliminating all of the partitions. So you're actually making the hard drive more fully functional again. And so I think there's a certain sense which if our brains have become fragmented, our mind, if we're fragmented in that sense, and we're not operating from we're not operating at full capacity from the holistic, whole brain state. And probably
I just get your meaning.
Yeah, and I feel like that intensity that you were talking about, maybe that has a power in it it's almost like it's recalibrating the brain, recalibrating ourselves. When you're able to see with that level of intensity, or you give your whole self, your whole heart and mind to what it is that you're looking at, then you can see it without the division. Then you don't bring in any of the fragmentation of thought that separates you from what you're looking at, and you really start to open up to experiencing reality as, one and the same with your being, not as an object that you hold outside of yourself and then you create, you take it in or interpret it through the symbolic level of the intellect and the kind of the map we've built in our brains. And so we're actually maybe seeing the territory, almost for the first time, without needing to see it through the lens of the maps we've created.
Maybe we don't need interpretation anymore at that point. Like, think about this. Imagine that we had 2 audio tracks for the message that we're saying today. One audio track is played into people's left headphone, and the other's played into people's right headphone. The message they get in their left headphone is, I respect you. I care for you. I think you are a good friend. Right? But they don't get the message through the right headphone. And the right headphone also had a message. Okay? And if they were to listen to the one on the right, it would say, not. At the key point, so it'd be like, don't. It'd be like, I don't respect you. I don't care for you. It could totally flip the meaning because they're only getting part of the message. And therefore, their interpretation is different. It's like almost when you get the whole picture, when you have both headphones on, you get the whole message. And you don't need the interpreting anymore.
Right. And I think part of the message that we get culturally through political and religious organizations and all the rest of it is the message that we're getting is that you're not complete in and of yourself, that there's something that you need to acquire, that's something that somebody else has, right? That we've got to pursue. And until we have it,
you can't be happy. You can't feel whole.
Right.
You can't be content. You won't be free.
And I think
you won't be valuable.
Yes.
You aren't worthy of love. Your life is meaningless and insignificant. Unless you're part of this greater entity.
How do you see that that's not true? That that's a false construct?
I'll tell you, I've never felt as lonely as I am in a crowd full of people. I mean, you're all together, but there's no genuine sense of togetherness. It stares you in the face in a crowd full of people. I remember when I went to a libertarian national convention as the delegate, and it's a bunch of libertarians, highly independent, highly suspicious of things like conformity, the values of the collective. They really value the rights of the individual. But even then, the experience of each other was based on a lot of assumptions. And I watched a lot of disagreements break out. Well, you're actually not a libertarian. That's more libertarian light. You know what? You're more of an anarchist. And these anarchists have taken over the Libertarian Party. We need to do something. Gary Johnson and John Weld are actually Republicans. And they just keeps going and fragmenting and fragmenting and fragmenting and fragmenting. And they're not synthesizing. They're not connecting. And it's not the libertarians. It's human nature. And I'm pointing that out because we all know Republicans and Democrats do it. But anyway, I didn't know if you knew that libertarians as well are human. But they're working on that. But my point is, you can experience it because we're confronted with this as a solution culturally. That the problem of human existence, the problem of you being alone and meaningless, is that you really just need to lose yourself in something more significant and larger than yourself. Become part of a religion. Become part of a political party. Join a corporation. Or subscribe to this belief system or that belief system. Or dress like this. Wear a emblem just like that. Right? Have this bumper sticker. Drive this car. It's all saying now you have a sense of unity and togetherness. But because you all wear blue doesn't mean...
You know, the Borgs had a sense of unity.
The Borgs?
Yeah,
What?
from Star Trek. Assimilate into the Borg.
I love how you bring up Star Trek. I get it, even though I haven't watched Star Treks.
Yeah.
I totally get it. You know, I mean, it's like communism. They had a sense of unity, but it lacked integrity. So you didn't have the sense at which we have the sense of fusion, right? We have a sense of togetherness. We have a unit. We are one. But yet we're two. You're you, and I'm me. And in order for us to be one, we don't have to get rid of one or the other. You can still be there, and I can still be here. We can still get together and do a podcast. Nothing wrong with that. You know what I mean? You don't have to cease to be Michael. You don't have to call yourself Nick. You don't have to say what I want you to say. You can say what you want to say. We got 2 microphones. You know what I mean?
That's right.
So, to answer your question, how do you experience that? I would counter your question with who has not experienced that? The inadequacy of joining a clique in junior high. Do you feel like you have a sense of togetherness or a bond because you're all preps or jocks or skaters or this or that or the other? Or is it really short-lived? Right? And then you need more and a greater sense of conformity. You have to join a bigger group. Or, I mean, think about high school football now or a football team. It's a huge production. It's a giant machine. You got the band going, millions of people. You're lost in the crowd. You go to a concert now, it's this huge, amorphous mass of people, you know, moving in unison, going, and losing themselves. Same with political campaign parties. It's huge. Look at the United States now. You feel like you're a United States citizen, that you, like Roman civis, you know, even the peasant, the poor had a sense of pride in that they were a Roman citizen, right? We're talking about millions of people. The United States, you got 318 million people. It's probably more than that by the time I've said this. What kind of real sense of togetherness do you have with 318 million people that you've never met? How many do you know? 6 in your circle? I mean, come on. Like, if you have any kind of real fusion, real relationship, you don't have a relationship with 318 million people other than the fact that you live within the artificial boundaries of this political human farm. Like, that's it. You didn't draw those lines. You didn't both choose to live here. You're probably just born here, right? Like, it's an artificial sense of unity. And people have all kind of experiences of artificial senses of unity. Hey, we're both wearing blue. All right. We both have watches. Like, you have to keep going. It's not lasting. It's not a lasting answer to the problem of human existence. And same with the other way around, the will to dominate. Like, you can never control the world. Total domination. Like, you can't get rid of the other. You can't get rid of the problem of human existence, of human separation, the need to bridge the universe by swallowing the world. Because you literally can't swallow the world. You literally can't control the universe. I mean, they got HARP and bunkers and drones, and they can alter genetic codes and regrow organ tissue in a petri dish and fly without wings and go to outer space and shit, but the universe is big. And they can't control it all because, you know what? They only got a few years to do it. And then they're going to turn to dust, plant food. So it's not a real solution. Like, you'll never be all-knowing and be all-powerful. So what is the answer? You know what I mean? If it's not to control the world, or it's not to lose yourself into an amorphous mass through submission, if it's not domination and submission, then what? And that's how people come to the experience of love. Love is the reference point, the opposite reference point of the scheme of escaping through dominance and submission. Once you realize that there's no lasting peace with trying to crush the world, and there's no lasting peace with trying to get rid of yourself, pull yourself out of the equation, then the other answer comes in of love. Who would have thunk? People who know the other two. And you know what? There are people in this world who know love. Who know it. I'm talking about, like, fusion with integrity, where we have a sense of togetherness, but yet you're still you and I'm still me, and there ain't no element of oppression in it. That's the answer. And because I know people who know love, who know mature love, and a healthy way of relating to each other, I also know that they must know the reference point as well. I mean, you can't know light without dark. There's no way to call it big if you don't know small. It's just the way it is. If the people I know in my life are familiar with love, then I know they're familiar and have experiential knowledge of these hates and escapes. Does that answer your question?
Absolutely.
Michael, where do we go from here? We've been talking about maps and the territory. What if maps are necessary to lead people to the territory? And not following its trails, but stumbling enough from following its trails to finally put the map down and look at it. You know what I mean? At the beginning of this podcast, we began with a different intention. I think that we had more of a fragmented understanding of the myth making and map making that's a natural part of human existence and human development. But now we've seemed to come full circle. It seems that you can't have good without bad. You can't have truth without illusion and falsehood. And you can't have reality without non-reality. And maybe the two enhance and enrich and add to each other, and you don't need to dominate or get rid of the other one in order to have it.
Maybe there can be no such thing as a world outside the cave unless there's a cave itself.
I like that. I like that a lot. How could you appreciate the natural light if you didn't know an artificial one? How could you recognize the substance and reality of the objects that cast the shadows had you not known the shadows? How could you come to value knowing the reality and substance of things had you not been tricked by the Maya of the world? I like where we are now, that the maps that we have been given are by nature in some way total misrepresentations of reality and life, which is a total mystery. But yet they play their role. Yet they play their part in a much larger myth, where they are, in a way, almost a helper tool that sharpen our senses, just like the darkness can tune your eyes to see more and more subtle light.
I like that you just described where we came from in beginning to analyze the map as almost like a potential stumbling block along the path, ascending up the mountain to a place where it's no longer seen. It doesn't need to be seen that way. It's you described it as a helper. And so what happens when you really begin to internalize that sort of a truth, where you begin to know that you can view even those things that you thought were an obstacle to your path as really just a stepping stone? How does that change up your ability to navigate this world? We talked about how so many of us lack in our daily lives just a feeling that, we're able to be fully present, fully alive. And I think we tend to want to pin the tail on the donkey and say it's because of XYZ. I didn't have a wonderful childhood. Some guy cut me off on the road today and fucked my day up. Whatever it is, we're
submitting to fate.
Right.
Submitting to chance.
So can we so when we've sort of beginning to grasp this understanding that we can shift our interpretation of what it is we're perceiving, then gosh, I lost the thread I was on. Man, I was about to come to a grand finale there, and it slipped out of my mind, out of my consciousness. It seems like there's only one possible conclusion to what I was saying.
We were talking about, you remember we were talking about the headphones, and
Maybe listeners will just have to answer that one for themselves. Maybe I can't give it to you.
This is definitely not something that can be given. I hope that it will be inspired. I hope that we can inspire those who seek to continue seeking until they find. And when they find, they will become astonished. And when they become astonished, they will be shocked.
And when they become shocked, they will be awed.
And when they become awed, they will be bewildered. Ad infinitum. But I do hope to inspire people to seek on their own journey.
Yes, the point of this dialogue is not to say that here are the answers to all of life mysteries. It's to inspire everyone to begin to ask these questions and explore with us. You know,
it should be a window into the mysteries. I mean, if you could, by turning on this video, have pulled back the curtains and lifted the blinds to see how we react to exploring what is mysterious to us, then maybe, just maybe, you might be open to exploring what's mysterious to you. The mysteries are, by necessity, by definition, a very personal experience and different for everyone because everybody is a different corner of the universe. And in order to really experience the mysteries, you have to start with what you are most called to draw that undivided presence and attention. So, what's most interesting to you, being a completely different corner of the universe than me, won't do it for me. Not as much as you. But let's say that the most enriching, rich experience I could ever experience in my entire life, I found surfing a wave in Costa Rica. Surfing does it for me, man. And when I talk about surfing, I talk about it like it's communion with the divine and all this stuff, right? But for you, you don't really think surfing's all that hot shit. But man, do you love hockey.
Apple picking.
Apple picking. Nice Garden of Eden reference. You love apple picking. And I can see in your eyes the same life, a sense of aliveness that I have known in my own eyes when I surf, even though for you, you pick apples. Then I know that you know. Just like if I'm telling a joke.
Yes.
Right? And you
it's
get
us
it.
Right back to the beginning where we started in this conversation was about this very question of how to know whether what I know is what you know. You know?
I want to fully articulate it too, because I really want people to understand how I would describe when I know that another person has experienced what I'm experiencing or is talking about what I'm talking about directly. Mm-hmm. When people who are in positions of authority tell you things, right? Leaders or people who are trying to be your leader, whether they're a politician or a priest or an actor or a teacher, okay? If they're telling you, you should eat these fruit I picked. I don't know what they're called, but man, they're good for you. And you look at them, right? And there's literally like pain in their eyes, all right? And you can see like their face is pale and they're sweating and they're literally like hunched over when they walk. And they weren't like that before they were eating the berries.
Right.
A tree is known by its fruit. And when you're looking at the fruit they're eating, well, let's say that the fruit's the tree and the way they feel is the fruit, then you know the tree. Tree is known by its fruit. So when I'm sitting here telling you something, right? Anybody telling you something, look into their eyes, okay? Mm-hmm. If they're in the place that you're trying to get to, then you know you can listen. If somebody says follow me and you're looking in their eyes and they ain't you know that they don't look like they're in the place that you're trying to get to. Why in the world would you follow somebody who looks like they ain't where you're trying to go? And you know where you're trying to go. Everybody does. Because everybody's had the experience of the place where there's nowhere else in the world they would rather be. And nothing else in the world they would rather be doing than exactly what they're doing in that moment. What is that for you? Think about it. Because I know where it is for me, and it's different for everybody, because everybody's a different person. And for me, I find it in some places that are easy to name. Surfing's got a name. I say one word, people know exactly what I'm talking about. Doesn't have to be that way at all, and most of the time isn't. But that moment where you come fully alive, that moment where without Adderall or nicotine or Ritalin or caffeine or anything, without even effort, your attention is drawn naturally 100% undivided. You are 100% fully engaged in the activity at hand. And in the process, you experience your success where what you're doing is intrinsically rewarding. You love it. And therefore, the more that you do it, the more that you want it, you're motivated to do it. It's intrinsically motivating. And the more motivated you are to do it, the more you do it, the better you feel. Yeah, let's do this for every meal. Like it just keeps going. It's this closed loop cycle where you just keep coming to life. It's a spirit where when you become fully present, it's almost as if you experience this presence. But that aliveness, that sense of aliveness, that you can see it in somebody's eyes when they've known it. I'm talking about a peak level experience. An experience of the mysteries. You can see the wonder, you can see the awe, the magic, the calling, the beckoning, the richness. And I'm not talking about like you can see their bank account in their eyes. What am I talking about? I'm talking about an alternative kind of richness, right? It's a quality of life, not a quantity of something. It's the quality that every person has known at some point in their life, in some activity and in some place, somewhere, to some degree. And when somebody else is trying to tell you something, look in their eyes. If they're in the place that you're trying to get to, now that you know where you're trying to get to, and then you know.
If they're looking at you like this,
chances are they're Michael Curvin trying to make it funny. How do we wrap this up, Michael? You are a star. What?
What you said.
You are a star. Not like any star. You're a shooting star. You are a meteor streaking across the sky that nobody knows where you came from, and nobody knows where you go after you leave this world. But while you're here, you can light up the sky.
Dance party?
Make a beat, Michael. Alright, we've been too serious, looking at the mysteries, curious. Everybody feeling so delirious. But me, man, these cheeses here, man, have no fear. I'm feeling intoxicated like I got beer, but my whole picture's clear. Man, what in the world's happening here? Hold up a minute. I got the mic, put it on and spin it, throw it in it, gave up all my losing and I gave up on my winning. I done transcended, yeah, and this rap ain't ended. So real I can't be pretending, yeah, but you know you're my friend when I can see in your eyes the opposite of what people see when they see despise. But I lost my beat. Yeah, now I'm back on my feet.
That was a crazy drum roll coming out of my hole. Now you got the beat and I'm about to deliver a treat. Though it's not Halloween just yet, don't get yourself your appetite wet, cause I ain't got no candy for you. What are you gonna do when I show up at your door and knock? Are you gonna take off your socks and show me your feet? That's not the treat that I want to eat. No way, Jose, I'm gonna say, go away and close the door in your face, and then go back to my place with my bag of treats that I got to eat from some other houses. Back in the house with my mouses, they try to cop a treat from me, and I'll be like, hell no, mouse, you gotta see that these are my treats, not for you, for me. What you gonna do? I'm constantly talking about eat my treats, but I share it with them Mises, cause you know I got Reese's Pieces, and I like to share when I got treats everywhere. I give them to all the pests in my house, and then I don't feel so alone, cause I'm surrounded by other living beings, and they keep me company at night when I'm all alone in my bed. Yeah, that's what happens. Now you know about my lifestyle.
Kick it. Yo, this is a deep reflection. Feel the reflection. Yo, this ain't no collection. This is my mind connection. Feel it in the start. Finish won't diminish. It replenishes your heart. Coming back. Now I'm coming like a harp. Playing the music on the mark. Yeah, I got the chalk here to walk the walk. I'ma have to dry the land in the sand. Yeah, if you know what I mean, then you understand. This ain't no joke. Ain't no pinch poke, you owe me a coke. Yo, cause you know I ain't trying to give no obligation. I'll be dying before I hit that door. That shit's a chore. Yo, this is another whole energy coming out of me just like synergy. See? Can't you see? This is me, Nick Reed, coming at you so free. So free and collected. Like I said, man, this shit is for reflecting. Coca-Cola.